pay for a better seat today, Paul? Or? Oh, man. Front seat's cheaper. Yeah.
Can I start then?
Yeah. How was your night, Paul? Good.
The obvious first question, Rasmus Dahlin. I mean, you coached against him first before you got the chance, so you've seen his growth in the NHL. What are your thoughts on him being a Norris finalist?
I mean, very well deserved. A huge part of, our team and the reason why we got to where we got to. A lot of times when the game's on the line and we need offense, he's there. He's been a guy that's with him and Samuelson that have played against all the top lines night in, night out. He's got a physicality to him that makes it really tough on the opposition. Hard guy to play against. So I think it's really well deserved.
Lindy, further to that, when Rasmus is up here, we talked about how the modern defenseman, obviously you have to have the offense to be considered for an award like this, but that he seems to have some old school in him too, a little Pronger, a little Ulf Samuelsson maybe in terms of his temper and his edge, and he's kind of smiled when we mentioned that. Do you like that part of his game as well?
Yeah, there's times I really like it. I think there's times we try to temper it though too. I think that's been part of the maturing process for him as a player, the when and where part of it. When the game's on the line, I don't need you in the penalty box. When you need to show fire for your teammates and your desire, that's the part that you really like to see. And that, I think it's been a growing process for him.
Lindy, moving on to Alex Lyon. What do you make of his journey at 33 to be in this position, to be playing so well and to seem ready for the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of goalies, and he's in that category that, we're on the edge of always making it or always being that guy, but weren't quite that guy. And I've said this, we've used 3 goalies this year, and all 3 goalies have been a big part of it. And right now, he's caught fire. It's been his turn. He's really wrapped his arms around the opportunity. He reminds me, I had Wedgwood in New Jersey, just a little bit like that. Now Wedgwood is the guy in Colorado. A guy that's played good goal in a lot of places, now all of a sudden is the guy in Colorado. So I think, Alex has that temperament that never give up, that I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to show you that I deserve to be here. He doesn't have a bad day. I mean, I haven't seen it. And, he loves coming to the rink.
Again, about the Lion, your team, as we all know, is super young, super talented, probably a dozen first-rounders, and then come this guy, 33-year-old, never drafted, journeyman, AHL and NHL. What has been his impact in the locker room on this young, talented guy?
Yeah, just a really likable guy that guys love being around. Big personality, got a lot of fire, and when you get a veteran guy amongst, what a majority of our young players, what a good representation of, the attitude and the culture we want to have of, we just listed his route to where he is right now, and that's just been nothing but keep working until you get to that point. And I think our players embrace his journey.
Lindy, I know you didn't love the way the team played at home in round 1, and you'd kind of talked about some of the reasons that might have happened. Was there anything you noticed in the lead up to yesterday's game that maybe led to a more complete and settled game in game 1?
Yeah, it's a lot better game for sure. I thought we played a heck of a second period. I said there's areas we need to improve. I think as coaches, you're always working on areas to improve in, and we're going to continue to work on areas to improve. But I look back. I think combination of anxiety, nerves, first time, too amped up, not focused on how we really need to play versus kind of running around and wasting a lot of energy doing things that we don't need to be doing in that the first game. And we didn't get much accomplished until really the third period of game one. So I think our start last night, just the break right off the bat with our guy falling and taking advantage of that and getting an early power play goal and Doan scoring his goal, a great start to our first period. Overall, a good game one. Knowing that as a team there are things we can do better.
Over here, Lindy, on the left. Yeah. So in this battle for time and space, how would you characterize the time and space that the Canadiens gave your guys, especially your top guys, and so that you could manufacture some offense?
Well, I felt there was a lot of speed in the game, and if you got trapped, you were going to give up speed. And I think our speed is pretty deep from top to bottom amongst our forwards. I kind of feel the same way. We gave up some speed opportunities that when you get caught on the wrong side of the puck, you're going to end up chasing. I thought when we got that step and we got a D involved and it was a 4-man attack, we were able to push their defense back and create some openings that allowed us for some better chances once we crossed the blue line.
A season is filled with all sorts of moments, both very public and behind the scenes. I mean, to me, one of the biggest behind the scenes moments of this whole year is that morning skate in Detroit when Dahlin is back and you guys saw how positive he felt. We know what he felt. We talked to him, but what did that mean to the coaches, to the rest of the team, to see him that day, to see that attitude and, what it meant from there?
Yeah. That was a big moment for us. Just personally to get him back and seeing him doing well and him knowing that he felt he came back and everything was going to be okay. First and foremost, that that side of his life was, I would use the word okay at that time of the year. As a coach, I think you get a little selfish. You're getting what is now a Norris Trophy candidate back in your lineup, a guy that can be a difference maker game in and game out. But at the same time, realizing that this young man's gone through an unbelievable experience that, I don't think any one of us can fathom what went on in those 3 or 4 months.
Just up here, and he was talking about leadership and being a captain and how much easier it is to be a captain when a team is successful than when they're not. But he also talked about the culture in the room and tried to diffuse his contribution. But I'm curious, what is his responsibility for the culture that's in your room now?
Leading by example, playing the game the right way, being that guy that is the captain for every guy in the room. I feel the best captains are the captains that are a captain for everybody, not just the guys that are struggling or your friend or your countryman. It's a captain for everybody, and I just feel he is a guy that is a guy that cares about everybody. He's not just a captain for his fellow defensemen. He's there for everyone, and I think that's the most important thing. I think first and foremost, you lead by example. Then you can be vocal, but part of that is to be there for everyone.
After last night, you said that some players didn't come up to par in this game after a few days off. What are some of the elements after rewatching the game you noticed that weren't up to par for your team collectively?
Just some of our puck decisions I thought weren't up to the level that we had, and I'm using Game 6 in Boston that I thought we played a heck of a game, except for maybe the first 7-8 minutes in the third period. I think with that number of days off, we're dealing with the, hate to say rust, but you haven't been up and running. Your game tempo isn't quite there, and some of our puck decisions led to opportunities, what I call giving up free offense, and it wasn't from lack of effort. Nothing to do with effort, but it had to do with a lot of our puck management and execution.
In your matchups last night, you had the Thompson line against the Suzuki line. I don't know if I want to say quite often, but quite a few times. It didn't seem like either line had a lot of offensive opportunities. Did they defend each other so well that they almost took each other out of the game?
I think, Paul, you might be a little bit wrong on that. I thought there was 4 or 5, big opportunities that the Thompson line had. He had a backdoor tuck opportunity on the rush. You had Tomer that slid in on another rush in the second period. We had another high play to Thompson. So, three pretty good looks. I thought. I know it wasn't against their line, but they pulled off a face-off play at the start of the third period where they got a real good look. I think it was Caulfield or Suzuki backdoor, late in the third period, but that wasn't the Thompson line either. So I thought both lines actually had, I'm going to say, at least 3 good opportunities to get on the board. Probably more. So not quite as tight when I went through the game as you pictured, but there was opportunities for our top line and their top line to do some damage.
Hey, just over here. Listening to you describe the duties of your captain, it almost sounded like exactly what you could say about Nick Suzuki. He's a player that had 101 points as a finalist for the Selke this year. Just what can you say about the unique challenge of facing him, and what have you learned about him as a player, and what makes him special? Yeah,
I'll be honest, not a player I know real well, but I think when you get nominated for what he's been nominated for, that speaks volumes. I think I would put him in that category with like a Nico Hischier, who I coached as a captain, and a great two-way player, a player that's going to average over a point a game, and a guy that you can rely on in every situation, and a guy that's a great face-off guy. Yeah, for me, that's kind of I'm painting a picture of a coach's dream, really.
Lindy, when we talked a couple months ago about the time of your hiring, there were 2 kind of outside narratives. Number one, at a time where more younger coaches are coming in, why are the Sabres bringing in a veteran coach? I'm not going to use the word retread, but more importantly,
or
a
old,
guy
or old, right, Mike? Yeah.
Or a guy. But on the other hand,
thanks, Mike.
No problem. Why would a guy in your middle age want to come to a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 13 years? And you said at the time, because I could see the skill and potential in this team. So 2 years later, looking where your team is right now, how satisfying is it for you to see the growth of this team and the potential that you saw when you took the job?
Yeah, I mean, extremely satisfying. I'll admit I was frustrated with the job I was doing last year, that I didn't quite get him to where I wanted to get him. We had that real tough stretch, the 13-game losing streak that, when I broke it all down, it could have easily won 6, 7 of those games, but didn't, for a lot of different reasons. A lot of it was sometimes, leading games, puck management, leading big in games. You go to Colorado games from last year that, we gave away points, that we weren't defending well enough. Our skill is great. It'll score a lot of goals, but at the same time, the teams that succeed are the teams that can defend at key moments and be a good defending team. And I think we've become a good defending team, that we can play a tight game, we can be in a 1-goal game, we can be in a tied game and be confident that we'll make the right plays to win a game. And now when we have a couple goal lead, we can not give up, what I call high quality opportunities in a game that you don't need to give them up.
Just Jack Quinn, and he had a very notable game last night. I know he didn't really get on the score sheet, but that's been a common theme the last month or two. Just he's noticeable every night. What's allowed him to up his game and to get those chances, I guess?
Well, first, I think the way he skates, he has really skated well, even in the Boston series, skated well. You got to believe when he gets, he hit another crossbar and a great play from McLeod. He walked in and Dobesh made a good save in the second or third period, whenever that opportunity was. He had the puck a lot in the offensive zone. At some point, 2 or 3 of those will go in. They just will, because he's that good a shooter. And I keep telling him that, when it dries up a little bit, the best place to go is around net front. You're going to have to tip one in. You're going to have to get a rebound opportunity. You're still going to get your quality rush chances, because I think his skating is that much better right now. But stay with it. I thought he played a really good game. I thought that line was a lot more dangerous in that game than probably most of the 6 games in the Boston series.